Want to open doors, destroy enemies, or trigger events when your player moves around? In this video, I'll show you exactly how to use Unity's triggers and colliders to do all that the right way. Let's set up a 3D scene. I already have a plane object as the floor, so to make the player, create a capsule object and position it to sit on top of the floor. I'm making the scale of my player 0.6 on the X and Z axes and 0.9 on the Y axis so that it fits through the door frame we'll add later. Create a material and name it player. Make it the color you want and drag it onto the player object. Make sure that the player is sitting directly on top of the floor, then drag your main camera into your player object and adjust its position within the object. I downloaded this free door model online. The link is in the description. You will have to do some manual adjusting in Unity when you import it to get the size right before you make it into a prefab. When you have done that, drag your door prefab into the scene and position it in front of the player. Notice how the pivot for the door panel is at the edge where the hinges on a door in real life would be. This is crucial to making sure the door animation rotates on that pivot, not at the center. You can always make your own door object for free in Blender. Now add a box collider to the door panel and adjust the collider size to fit. Then add a second box collider and check the Is Trigger checkbox. Change the size and the center of the trigger so that it is in front of the door and an appropriate size for detecting the player. Now we're going to create a scripts folder and in it create a player script, then open it in Visual Studio. Start by adding serialized field, private, character controller, and private, float, move speed equals 5. Then make an update method. I'm using Unity 6, so I'll be using the new input methods, but you can easily just work with the old inputs. Add if keyboard.current.wkey.isPressed or keyboard.current.uparrowkey.isPressed character controller.move vector3.forward times move speed times time.delta time. Duplicate that and paste it below. Then change W key to S key and up arrow key to down arrow key and put a negative in front of the vector 3 dot forward. Save and go back to Unity. Create a new script called Door Panel Script. Open it and add serialized field, private, animator, anim. Private void OnTriggerEnter collider other. If other.compare tag player anim.setTrigger open. Now tag your player object with the player tag. This is how the door panel script will recognize the player. Remove the capsule collider from the player, because we are going to be using a character controller. So add that component and turn the skin width all the way down so the player doesn't appear to hover over the ground at runtime. Drag in the player script and drag the character controller component into the field in the script component. Click on the panel object of the door. Go to the Animation tab and click Create Animation. Create an animation folder in your project, then name your animation idle. This will be the default starting state of the door panel. Press the record button and slightly adjust the rotation of the panel to create a keyframe, then set it back to where it was before. Copy that keyframe and put it on about frame 5. Create a new clip, name it Open, and do the same thing for the first frame, but for the second frame, go to about frame 25 and adjust the Y rotation of the door to your liking. Now drag the animator component into the animator field of the door panel script component. Make sure the panel object is selected and click on the Animator tab. Make sure idle is the default state, then right-click on idle to make the transition to open. Add a trigger parameter and name it Open with a capital O, as it was named in the door panel script. Click the transition from idle to open and uncheck has exit time and fixed duration. Then set the transition duration to 0. Add the open trigger as a condition. In play mode, you'll see the door open when the player enters the trigger, but the open animation keeps looping. So go to your open animation and uncheck loop time. Now when we play it, it functions correctly. The key differences to remember when working with triggers or colliders is that triggers are for event detection and colliders are for physical collisions. Use colliders for physics and triggers for zones, switches, and interactions. Now we're going to have the player be able to shoot the door panel with a physical projectile, and upon collision, the panel will disappear. So create a sphere, which will be our projectile prefab, and resize it to about 0.2 on the X, Y, and Z scale axes. Create a material for it, drag it onto the projectile, and then reposition it at 0, 0, 0. Then drag it into your assets folder and create a prefab of it and delete the object from the hierarchy. Now in the door panel script, add private void OnTriggerEnter collision collision. If collision.gameObject.compareTag projectile destroy collision.gameObject destroy gameObject. In the player script, add if keyboard.current.spacekey.was pressed this frame, vector3 projectile spawn equals new vector3 transform.position.x transform.position.y transform.position.z plus 0.5f. GameObject new projectile equals instantiate projectile spawn transform.rotation. At the top, under Move Speed, add Serialized Field, Private, Game Object, Projectile. Save the scripts and then back in Unity, open the projectile prefab and add a rigid body to it and uncheck Use Gravity. Create a new script named Projectile Script and open it in Visual Studio. Add Serialized Field, Private, Rigid Body, RB. Private void start rb.linear velocity equals vector3 forward times 8. Save the script and in Unity drag the script onto the projectile and the rigid body component into the field in the projectile script component. Add a tag named projectile with a capital P, then assign the newly created tag to the prefab. In the newly edited player script, add the projectile prefab in the projectile field. Now in play mode, we'll see the projectile destroys the door panel upon collision. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.